The shuttle carrying General Park Una descended through the clouds of Meridian Prime, and she watched the massive station grow larger through the viewport. It was beautiful in a cold way. Towers of white metal reached toward the stars, connected by bridges that looked like threads of silver. This was the heart of galactic civilization. This was where every important decision in the known universe was made. And today, for the first time in history, Human would speak at the Great Council. Park adjusted her uniform and checked her reflection in the dark glass. She was 47 years old, with short black hair that showed traces of gray at the temples. Her face carried the marks of a soldier who had seen too many battles. A thin scar ran along her jaw from a knife fight on Mars Colony when she was 23. Her eyes were dark and steady, the eyes of someone who had learned long ago that fear was a luxury she could not afford. Behind her, Ambassador Choi Daeho cleared his throat. He was a tall man, with gentle features and the careful manner of a career diplomat. He had spent 20 years learning how to smile at people he did not trust. "General," he said quietly, "I need to remind you of the protocols. The Velith are very particular about respect. Do not speak unless spoken to during the opening ceremony. Do not make direct eye contact with Counselor Move-In for more than 3 seconds. And whatever happens, do not show aggression. They consider humans to be ... primitive. Any mistake will confirm their beliefs." Park turned to face him. "Ambassador, I have read the protocols. I have memorized the customs. I know exactly what the Velith think of us. But I am not here to beg for their approval. I am here to represent Earth as an equal partner." Choi sighed. He had known Park for 15 years. Ever since she was a young captain, defending mining ships from pirates in the asteroid belt, she was brilliant, fearless, and completely unwilling to bend. These qualities had made her the youngest general in Terran history. They had also made her very difficult to work with. "Just please try to be diplomatic," he said. Park almost smiled. "I will be exactly as diplomatic as they deserve." The shuttle landed, and they stepped out into the arrival hall. Park had seen images of this place, but the reality was overwhelming. The ceiling rose hundreds of meters above them, painted with murals showing the history of the Galactic Council. Thousands of beings moved through the space, representing dozens of species. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6, or none at all. Some breathed oxygen, others carried tanks of methane or ammonia. The galaxy was vast and strange, and humanity was just the newest addition to its collection. A Velith guide approached them. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like blue crystal. His movements were graceful and slow, as if he was dancing through water. His eyes were large and purple, and they looked at Park with obvious contempt. "General Park, Ambassador Choi. Welcome to Meridian Prime. I am Coordinator 7. I will escort you to the council chamber. Please follow me and try not to touch anything." Park said nothing. She simply nodded and followed. The walk to the council chamber took nearly an hour. They passed through gardens filled with plants from 100 worlds, through halls lined with statues of ancient Velith leaders, through rooms where treaties had been signed and wars had been ended. Everywhere they went, beings stopped to stare at the humans. Some seemed curious. Others seemed disgusted. A few seemed afraid. Finally, they reached the great doors of the council chamber. They were made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light, and they were covered in symbols that Park could not read. Coordinator 7 touched a panel, and the doors slid open. The chamber was circular, with rows of seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Hundreds of delegates were already seated, representing every major species in the galaxy. At the highest tier, in seats of white stone, sat the Velith High Council, and in the center of them, on a throne that seemed to be carved from a single massive crystal, sat Counselor Move-In. He was old, even by Velith standards. His crystalline skin had darkened to deep blue, and cracks ran through it like the lines on an ancient map. But his eyes were sharp and cold, and when they found Park, they held nothing but contempt. "The humans have arrived," he announced, his voice carrying through the chamber without any apparent effort. "How exciting. I was beginning to think they had gotten lost on the way here. Their navigation technology is so ... basic. Laughter rippled through the Velith section. A few other species joined in, eager to please their masters. Park kept her face completely still. Ambassador Choi stepped forward and bowed. Counselor Muvin, the United Terran Government, thanks you for this opportunity to address the Council. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to build a relationship that will benefit all species. Movin waved a thin hand dismissively. Yes, yes. We have heard such words before. Every new species says the same thing. They come in peace. They want friendship. And then they start making demands. He leaned forward, his purple eyes fixed on Park. But perhaps your general would like to speak? I understand humans value their military leaders very highly, almost as if they have not evolved beyond tribal warfare. Park stepped forward. She did not bow. Counselor Muvin, she said, her voice clear and steady. I am here to present Earth's proposal for a mutual defense treaty. In the past 50 years, humanity has established colonies on 47 worlds. We have developed faster than light travel, advanced weapons systems, and industrial capabilities that we believe would be valuable to any alliance. We are not asking for charity. We are offering partnership. She pulled a data crystal from her pocket and held it up. This contains the details of our proposal. Fleet specifications, industrial output, strategic analyses, everything the Council needs to evaluate what humanity can offer. Oven laughed. It was not a kind sound. Partnership, he repeated. You want partnership with the Velith Dominion? Your species has been in space for barely 2 centuries. We were building starships when your ancestors were living in caves and hitting each other with rocks. You have nothing to offer us. Nothing. He stood up from his throne and began walking down toward the central platform. Every eye in the chamber was on him. I have studied your species, General Park. I know what you are. You are violent. You are aggressive. You breed like insects and spread like disease. Every world you touch, you damage. You cut down your forests. You poison your oceans. You fight endless wars against each other over resources, over beliefs, over simple pride. He stopped in front of her, towering over her small human frame. You do not belong here. You are not ready to sit at this table, and I will make sure everyone understands that. His hand moved faster than Park expected. The slap caught her across the face, snapping her head to the side. The sound echoed through the suddenly silent chamber. In Velith culture, this was the correction. It was what you did to animals that misbehaved. 2 servants who spoke out of turn. It was the ultimate expression of dominance. It's a statement that the person receiving it was not worthy of dignity. Park tasted blood. Her cheek burned. Every delegate in the chamber was watching, waiting to see the human cower. It's waiting to see the primitive species accept its place in the hierarchy. She turned her head back slowly. Her dark eyes met Muvin's purple ones, and she spoke 3 words that would change the galaxy forever. That was unwise. The moment stretched like time itself had stopped. Counselor Muvin stared down at the small human woman, his purple eyes showing the first flicker of uncertainty. He had slapped dozens of lesser beings in his long life. They always backed away. They always lowered their heads. They always accepted the correction. General Park Yuna did none of these things. Instead, she moved to the Velith, who had evolved on a world with gravity less than half of Earth's. Human movement was normally slow and clumsy. Their dense bones and heavy muscles made them lumber like beasts. But Movin had never seen a human who had trained in combat since childhood. He had never seen what Earth's crushing gravity could do to a body that learned to fight against it every single day. Park's fists covered the distance between them in less than a quarter of a second. Her entire body rotated with the punch, driving force through her hips, her shoulders, her arm. Every year of training, every battle, every moment of discipline, focused into a single point of impact. Her knuckles struck Muvin's temple with a sound like breaking glass, because that is exactly what it was. The Velith skull, beautiful and crystalline, was not built to absorb blunt force trauma. It was designed for a gentle world, where violence was rare and physical conflict was almost unknown. Park's punch shattered it like a hammer striking a window. Movin collapsed instantly. His body hit the floor of the council chamber, and purple blood began pooling beneath his head. The cracks in his skull spread outward. Pieces of crystalline bone shifted beneath his skin. For 3 full seconds, nobody moved. The chamber was completely silent. Then chaos erupted. Belith delegates screamed in outrage, their voices high and sharp. Security forces from a dozen species rushed toward the central platform, weapons drawn. Ambassador Choi went pale, his diplomatic training failing him completely. Medical teams pushed through the crowd, surrounding Move-On's broken body. Park stood exactly where she was. She did not run. She did not apologize. She simply looked down at the unconscious counselor and said, in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear in human culture, when someone strikes you, you have the right to defend yourself. I exercised restraint. He is still breathing. A Velith commander pushed through the crowd, his crystalline features twisted with rage. Arrest her, he shouted. Arrest the human animal? She has attacked a high counselor. By galactic law, she must be executed. Security forces moved toward Park, but Ambassador Choi stepped in front of them. His voice was shaking, but he spoke clearly. Earth's Sovereignty Clause, he said. Article 7 of the Contact Treaty. No Earth citizen can be arrested on foreign soil without the express permission of the Terran government. General Park is under my diplomatic protection. Diplomatic protection. The Velith commander looked like he might explode. She nearly killed a counselor. Your protection means nothing. It means everything, Choi replied. Unless you want to invalidate every treaty humanity has ever signed, unless you want to prove that the Galactic Council does not honor its own laws. The commander hesitated. Around him, delegates from other species were watching carefully. Many of them had their own sovereignty clauses. Many of them relied on those clauses to protect their people. If the Velith ignored human rights, they might ignore anyone's rights. This is not over, the commander said finally. The Dominion will have justice. He turned and marched away, followed by his security team. Medical personnel carried Movin's body out of the chamber, and slowly, the other delegates began to leave. Most of them refused to look at Park. A few did, and in their eyes, she saw something unexpected. Not horror. Not disgust. Hope. The human delegation was escorted to their quarters and told not to leave. Guards were posted outside their door. Within the hour, news of the incident had spread across the galaxy. Every news network showed the footage, the slap, the punch, the fall. They played it again and again in slow motion, with analysis and commentary. Experts argued about what it meant. Politicians demanded action. Military leaders began making quiet calculations. On Earth, the reaction was immediate. President Han Murray was woken at 3 a.m. with the news. She was a small woman with iron-gray hair and a face that showed little emotion. She had led the United Terran government for 8 years, guiding humanity through its first steps into galactic civilization. She had always known this moment might come. Show me, she said. Her staff played the footage. She watched it 3 times without speaking. Then she asked a single question. Is Movin dead? No, Madam President. He is in critical condition, but he is expected to survive. Han nodded slowly. Get me General Park on a secure channel. 20 minutes later, Park's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired but not afraid. General Han said, Tell me what happened, Park told her. Every detail, from the moment they landed to the moment the guards escorted them away. She did not try to justify her actions. She did not apologize. She simply reported the facts. When she finished, Han was quiet for a long moment. The Velith are demanding your surrender, she said finally. They want you executed for assault on a council member. If we refuse, they will consider it an act of war. Park nodded. I understand, Madam President. If you believe surrendering me is the best option for Earth, I will accept that decision. Han almost laughed. General, if I surrender you, humanity will be seen as weak. Every species in the galaxy will know that humans can be pushed around, that our leaders can be slapped without consequence. We will spend the next 1,000 years being treated like animals. She stood up and walked to the window of her office. Outside, the lights of New Geneva sparkled in the darkness. My grandmother was born in a refugee camp, Han said quietly. She grew up with nothing. No home, no country, no dignity. She taught me that there are some things you do not surrender, no matter the cost. Pride is one of them. Self-respect is another. She turned back to the screen. General Park, you acted within the bounds of human dignity. You refused to accept treatment that no human being should accept. The Terran government stands behind you. Park felt something loosen in her chest. She had been ready to die. She was not ready for support. What about the war? She asked. We will face it if it comes. Han's voice was hard. The Valeth have 12,000 ships. We have 800. But I would rather fight with 800 ships in our honor intact than surrender everything we are for peace. She leaned closer to the camera. Prepare for war, General. I will make the announcement to our people. 6 hours later, President Han Murray stood before the cameras of every news network on Earth and its colonies. Behind her, the flag of the United Terran Government hung in perfect stillness. Her voice carried to billions of people scattered across 47 worlds. Citizens of Earth and her colonies, she began. Today, our representative was attacked. General Park Yuna, a decorated officer who has given her life to protecting humanity, was struck by Counselor Movin of the Veleth Dominion. She was struck because he believed we are lesser beings. She was struck because he wanted to remind the galaxy that humans do not deserve respect. Her eyes hardened. General Park did what any human with dignity would do. She defended herself. And now the Veleth demand we surrender her for execution. They demand we admit that our people can be attacked without consequence. They demand we accept our place as animals in their eyes. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice rang with steel. We refuse. General Park acted within the bounds of human dignity. We do not apologize for refusing to be treated as lesser beings. If that means war, then the Veleth will learn what happens when you corner humanity. We have survived ice ages. We have survived plagues. We have survived ourselves. We will survive them. Across the galaxy, every species heard the message. Most thought humanity was insane. A few thought humanity was magnificent. And the Veleth began to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. News of Earth's declaration spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On 1,000 worlds, beings of every shape and size gathered around. Screens to watch the footage of General Park's punch and President Han's defiant speech. Most of them shook their heads in disbelief. The humans were going to fight the Veleth Dominion. It was suicide. It was madness. It was the most exciting thing that had happened in centuries. On the Veleth homeworld of Crystallis, the High Council gathered in emergency session. Counselor Movin was still unconscious, his shattered skull held together by medical technology and prayers. In his absence, High Admiral Vexa took command of the war effort. She was younger than most Veleth leaders, with skin the color of deep ocean ice and eyes that held no warmth at all. The humans must be punished, she announced to the assembled admirals and generals. They have insulted our civilization. They have nearly killed one of our highest leaders. And now their president dares to speak to us as equals. Her thin fingers curled into fists. We will crush them. Every colony. Every ship. Every man, woman, and child. When we are finished, humanity will be nothing but a warning to other species who forget their place. The admirals nodded in agreement. The Veleth fleet was legendary. 12,000 warships, each one beautiful and deadly, built over 3,000 years of careful engineering. Their plasma weapons could melt asteroids. Their shields could shrug off nuclear strikes. They had never lost a war. They could not imagine losing one now. High Admiral Vexa selected 300 ships for the first attack. It was more than enough to destroy a minor colony. It would send a message that the Veleth were serious. It would break human spirit before the real war even began. The target was New Busan, a mining colony on the edge of human space. Population, 200,000. Defense force, 12 ships and a handful of ground batteries. Easy prey, Vexa said, as she reviewed the attack plan. "We will be home before the next moon rises." She was wrong. On Earth, Admiral Beek Jiwan stood before a room full of reporters and military analysts. He was 61 years old, with a face like weathered stone and hands that still remembered how to fire a rifle. He had commanded ships for 40 years. He had never commanded a fleet in a real war. Nobody alive had. "I understand that many of you are afraid," he said, his voice calm and measured. "The Velith have more ships than us. They have better technology. They have thousands of years of experience. By every measure, we should lose this war." He paused, letting the words sink in. "But I want to tell you something about humanity. Something the Velith do not understand." He walked to a screen on the wall and pulled up an image of Earth. "This is our homeworld. It looks beautiful, doesn't it? Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds." He pressed a button, and the image changed. Now it showed volcanoes erupting, earthquakes splitting the ground, hurricanes tearing across continents. What the Velith don't know is that Earth is a death world. Our gravity is nearly twice what most species consider comfortable. Our atmosphere is thick with oxygen, which is basically poison to half the galaxy. Our weather tries to kill us regularly. Our diseases are so aggressive that alien doctors cannot believe any creature could survive them. Another button press. Images of lions, sharks, crocodiles, and wolves filled the screen. And those are just the big predators. Our smallest life forms are worse. Bacter. Ia that eat flesh. Viruses that destroy immune systems. Parasites that live inside your brain. Beek allowed himself a small smile. Every species in the galaxy evolved on gentle worlds. Low gravity. Stable climates. Predictable environments. Humanity evolved in hell. He turned back to the audience. The Velith think they are predators. They have never met a species that was forged in constant war against its own planet. Our bones are dense because we need them to survive our gravity. Our muscles are strong because weakness means death. Our minds are paranoid because everything on Earth wants to eat us. He straightened his uniform. The Velith are going to learn what happens when you threaten a death world species. They are going to learn that we do not give up. We do not surrender. We do not stop fighting until we win or we die. And frankly, we are very good at not dying. Across human space, the mobilization began. Every shipyard worked around the clock, building new vessels and repairing old ones. Every factory converted to war production. Every citizen who could hold a weapon began training. It was not enough. It would never be enough. But humans did not know how to quit. General Park was released from confinement and given command of the newly formed Terran Expeditionary Force. She gathered her officers on the command deck of her flagship, the TDF unyielding, and explained the strategy. "We cannot match them in numbers," she said, pointing at a holographic map of human space. "We cannot match them in technology, but we can match them in will, and we can surprise them." She highlighted New Busan. Intelligence says this is their first target. 300 ships against 12. They expect an easy victory. They expect us to run or surrender. Her eyes swept across her officers. "We are going to give them neither. Every ship we have in range is moving to New Busan. We will have 47 vessels when they arrive. Still outnumbered, 6-1, but they do not know that yet." Captain Usahi, commander of the destroyer Relentless, raised her hand. "General, even with 47 ships, we cannot win a straight fight. What is the actual plan?" Park smiled. It was not a comforting expression. The actual plan is to fight like humans. The Velith use standard galactic tactics. They form neat lines. They exchange fire at long range. They retreat when losses become too high. Everything is elegant and controlled. She pressed a button, and the holographic display changed to show a chaotic swirl of ship movements. "We are not going to do any of that. We are going to charge directly into their formation. We are going to get so close that their superior range means nothing. We are going to ram them if we have to." We are going to make them bleed for every centimeter of space they try to take." The officers stared at the display. It looked insane. It looked like suicide. It looked exactly like something humans would do. "Our ships are built different," Park continued. "Galactic design philosophy favors light armor and strong shields. Human design philosophy favors heavy armor and moderate shields. Our ships are ugly. They are blocky. They look like flying bricks. But they can take damage that would destroy any Velith vessel. We use that." She turned to face her officers directly. "I will not lie to you. Many of us will die. This war will cost us more than we can imagine. But if we show the galaxy that humans will not be broken, if we prove that attacking us is more trouble than it is worth, then we have a chance. Not just to survive, but to win." "Captain," you nodded slowly. "When do we leave?" "Immediately. The Velith fleet will reach New Busan in 72 hours. We need to be there first." As the officers dispersed to their ships, Lieutenant Kang Jun-ho approached General Park. He was her aide, a young man with serious eyes and a mind that never stopped calculating. "General," he said quietly, "the numbers still do not favor us. Even with our tactics, even with our determination, 47 against 300 is almost impossible." Park looked at him for a long moment. "Lieutenant, do you know what impossible means to a human?" She did not wait for an answer. "It means we have not tried hard enough yet. Humanity has faced extinction a dozen times. Ice ages, plagues, nuclear weapons. Every time someone said it was impossible to survive. Every time we survived anyway." She put a hand on his shoulder. "The Velith have never lost a war because no one has ever been willing to pay the price of beating them. We are willing. That is our advantage. That is the only advantage we need." The fleet departed Earth space at maximum speed. 47 ships heading toward 300. Everyone knew the odds. Everyone went anyway. That was what it meant to be human, the Velith. Third Armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Busan system. 300 ships, each one a masterpiece of crystal and light, spread across space in perfect formation. Admiral Torvin commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Eternal Grace. He was old and experienced, and he expected this mission to be boring. "Scan the system," he ordered. "Find their defenders so we can destroy them quickly." The scanning officer bent over her console. When she looked up, her crystalline features showed confusion. "Admiral, I am detecting 47 human vessels." "They appear to be waiting for us." Torvin frowned. "Our intelligence said 12. They must have reinforced, Admiral. But 47 is still nothing. We outnumber them more than 6-1. The Admiral nodded, but something felt wrong. The humans should be running. They should be evacuating their colonists and retreating to safer space. Instead, they were sitting there, waiting. It was almost as if they wanted to fight. "Arrogant creatures," Torvin muttered. "Open a channel. Perhaps they will surrender and save us some time." The communication screen flickered, and the face of General Park Yuna appeared. She looked calm. "She looked ready, Velith fleet," she said. "This is General Park of the Terran Defense Force. You are entering human space without permission. Leave now, or we will force you to leave." Torvin almost laughed. "General Park, the human who struck our counselor. I was hoping to meet you. Surrender now, and I promise your death will be quick. Fight, and I will make sure it takes weeks." Park's expression did not change. "Admiral, you have made a very long journey to die. I wanted to give you one chance to reconsider. That chance has now passed." The screen went dark. Torvin shook his head. "Insane. They are truly insane." He turned to his tactical officer. "Standard attack formation. We will sweep through them in one pass." The Velith fleet began to advance, spreading into a wide crescent designed to envelop the smaller human force. Their plasma weapons charged, their shields hummed with power. It was the same formation they had used for 3,000 years. It had never failed. On the bridge of the Unyielding, General Park watched the enemy approach. Her officers were tense, their hands hovering over their controls. The Velith ships were beautiful, she had to admit. They gleamed like jewels against the black of space. "All ships," she said into the fleet-wide channel, "execute pattern thunder." The human fleet did something that no species in galactic history had ever seen before. Instead of spreading out to meet the Velith formation, they grouped together into a tight wedge. And then they accelerated directly toward the center of the enemy fleet. Admiral Torvin stared at his tactical display. "What are they doing?" "They appear to be charging us, Admiral. Makes no sense. Our plasma weapons will tear them apart at range. Should we fire?" "Of course we should fire." All ships open fire. 300 Velith vessels unleashed their weapons. Bright beams of superheated plasma crossed the distance between the fleets, slamming into the human formation. Energy shields flared and flickered. Armor plates glowed red and orange. But the human ships did not slow down. They did not scatter. They kept coming. The Velith fired again. And again. Ship after ship absorbed damage that should have destroyed them. The TDF hammer took a direct hit to its engine section and kept flying on backup power. The TDF Defiance lost its forward shields and simply rotated to present fresh armor. The TDF Unbroken caught fire across half its hull and continued accelerating. "Why aren't they dying?" Torvin demanded. "What is wrong with their ships?" His science officer pulled up the sensor readings. "Admiral, their armor is ... dense. Much denser than anything we use. It is absorbing our plasma weapons instead of deflecting them. We are hurting them, but they are not stopping." The human wedge punched through the Velith, formation like a fist through paper, and then the real chaos began. At close range, human weapons became terrifying. Railguns fired solid metal projectiles at speeds that Velith shields could not handle. Missiles slammed into crystalline hulls and detonated with nuclear fury. And the human ships did not stay still. They spun and dodged and weaved through the Velith fleet. Getting so close that friendly fire became a serious problem, Captain Usahi drove her destroyer between two Velith cruisers, firing in both directions. Her railguns tore through their thin armor like it was not there. One cruiser exploded. The other tried to turn away, but she followed it, pumping shot after shot into its engine section until it went dark. "To kills," she reported over the fleet channel. "Moving to next target?" Across the battle, similar scenes played out. Human ships fought like wild animals, ignoring damage that should have crippled them, pursuing enemies with relentless aggression. A Velith carrier tried to launch fighters, but the TDF Vengeance rammed its launch bay, jamming the doors shut. Both ships died together in a bloom of fire. Admiral Torvin watched his fleet falling apart. This was not warfare as he understood it. This was madness. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships, retreat." But retreat was not easy when the enemy was mixed in with your own forces. Human ships chased Velith vessels that tried to flee, staying close enough that they could not jump too faster than light without risking collision. Those that managed to pull away found human missiles following them, detonating against their engines as they tried to accelerate. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, only 47 Velith ships remained. They limped away from New Busan with damage that would take months to repair. Admiral Torvin was among the survivors, but he had lost his flagship and most of his senior officers. Human losses were heavy. 12 ships destroyed. 23 more damaged badly enough that they could not continue fighting. Over 3,000 sailors dead, but they had one. General Park stood on the bridge of the Unyielding, staring at the debris field that had once been a Velith armada. Her uniform was singed from a fire that had broken out on deck she had a cut above her eye that was still bleeding slowly. But she was alive, and her fleet was victorious. "Get me a channel to Earth," she said quietly. President Han's face appeared on the screen moments later. She looked like she had not slept in days. "General, I just received the reports. Is it true?" "Yes, Madam President. The Velith Third Armada has been destroyed. New Busan is secure." Han closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet. "How many did we lose?" 12 ships. 3,217 people die. And the Velith. 253 ships destroyed. We estimate 40 to 60,000 casualties. The number hung in the air between them. It was the largest naval defeat in Velith history. It would change everything. How? Han asked. They outnumbered you 6-1. Park considered the question for a long moment. They fought to win, Madam President. We fought to survive. There is a difference. She looked out at the stars beyond her viewport. The Velith have never faced an enemy that would not stop. They have never fought anyone willing to die rather than retreat. They did not know what to do when we charged them. Their tactics could not adapt. She turned back to the screen. This war is not over. They will come back with more ships, better tactics. But they know now that beating humanity will cost them more than they ever expected. That knowledge is our greatest weapon. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread like fire. The Velith Dominion had lost. Not just lost, but been humiliated by a species they considered primitives. Other species watched the footage with wonder and fear. The Tarathi Collective, long oppressed by Velith trade policies, sent a secret message to Earth. We are watching. We are hoping. The Meridian Syndicate quietly reduced their trade tariffs on human goods. The Holokin requested a diplomatic meeting. Species that had ignored humanity for decades suddenly wanted to talk. High Admiral Vexa received the news on Crystallis. She stood in her command center, watching the footage of human ships ramming Velith cruisers. And her crystalline blood ran cold. What are these creatures? She whispered. Her aide shook his head. I do not know, Admiral. But I believe we have made enemies of the wrong species. Vexa said nothing. She was already planning the next attack. It would be larger. It would be better prepared. But somewhere deep inside, in a part of her mind that she would never admit existed, she was afraid. The humans were not going to stop. The humans did not know how to stop, and the galaxy was beginning to realize what that meant. 6 months passed. 6 months of war, of death, of battles that burned across the darkness between stars. The Velith Dominion threw everything they had at humanity. Fleet after fleet. Strategy after strategy. They adapted. They learned. They became better at fighting humans. But humans became better too. Every battle taught the Terran Defense Force something new. They built ships faster, designed weapons more efficiently, trained soldiers more thoroughly. Human factories ran day and night, converting asteroid iron into warships at a pace that terrified galactic observers. A species that had industrialized its entire homeworld, in 2 centuries did not slow down when survival was at stake. The Velith lost over 2,000 ships. Humanity lost 300. But the numbers were deceiving. Human shipyards replaced their losses within weeks. Velith shipyards, designed for careful craftsmanship rather than rapid production, could not keep up. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Dominion was bleeding faster than it could heal. Counselor Movin recovered slowly. The surgeons had rebuilt his skull with artificial crystal, but the scars remained. He spent his days in his chambers, watching footage of the war, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. One morning, High Admiral Vexa came to see him. Council must act, she said without greeting. We cannot continue this war alone. Humanity is too... stubborn. Every battle costs us more than we can afford. We need allies. Movin looked at her with empty eyes. What allies? The other species fear us. They have always feared us. That is why they follow our lead. Fear is not enough anymore. Vexa sat down across from him. The Tarathi have stopped paying their tribute. The Meridian Syndicate is trading openly with human colonies. Even the Holokin are making noise about independence. They see what humanity is doing, and they are starting to believe that we can be beaten. Movin was silent for a long moment. I should have killed her, he said finally. That day in the council chamber, I should have killed General Park instead of trying to humiliate her. Vexa shook her head. It would not have mattered. If you had killed her, humanity would have sent another general, and another after that. They do not stop. They do not surrender. They do not know how. She leaned forward. Counselor, I am telling you that we cannot win this war through military force alone. We must seek peace. On terms that allow us to save face, but peace nonetheless. Muvin's crystalline features twisted with disgust. Peace? With animals? With the species that destroyed 2,000 of our ships in 6 months, Vexa said flatly. With the species that every other civilization in the galaxy is now watching with hope instead of fear. We can call them animals all we want. It does not change what they are capable of. On Earth, President Han Murray was having a similar conversation. We have won every major battle, Admiral Beak reported. But we are exhausted. Our people have been at war for half a year. Our economy is strained. Our soldiers are tired. We can keep fighting, but I do not know for how long. Han nodded slowly. She had seen the reports. Suicide rates were up. Birth rates were down. The human spirit was strong, but it was not infinite. What do you recommend? She asked. The Velith are hurting worse than we are. Their economy was not built for this kind of war. Their allies are abandoning them. If we push now, we might be able to force them to the negotiating table. Han turned to look out the window. The sun was setting over New Geneva, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Contact the council, she said. Tell them we are willing to discuss terms. But make sure they understand one thing. We will not accept any agreement that treats humanity as less than equal. Not now, not ever. The negotiations took 3 weeks. They were held on Meridian Prime, in the same chamber where General Park had struck Counselor Muvin. Both species had demanded the location. Both wanted to remember what had started the war. The human delegation was led by Ambassador Choi Daeho. He looked older than he had 6 months ago, with new lines around his eyes and gray streaks in his hair. Beside him sat General Park. Her uniform covered in medals she had never asked for. The Velith delegation was led by Counselor Muvin himself. He moved stiffly, and half his face was still covered in reconstruction scaffolding. But he had insisted on being there. He had started this war. He would finish it. For 2 weeks they argued about trade routes and military boundaries and diplomatic recognition. But everyone knew those were not the real issues. The real issues were decided on the final day. Muvin stood before the full council and read from a prepared statement. On behalf of the Velith Dominion, he said, his voice flat and empty, I formally apologize to humanity for the actions taken against General Park Yuna in this chamber. The correction ritual was inappropriate and unjust. Humanity is not a lesser species. Humanity is an equal partner in this galactic community. He paused, and something in his purple eyes seemed to die. Furthermore, the Velith Dominion agrees to abolish the correction ritual across all council space. No species will be treated as animals. No representative will be struck for speaking their mind. Park watched him speak. She felt no satisfaction. She felt no triumph. She only felt tired when Muvin finished. It was her turn. She stood up and faced the chamber. Humanity accepts this apology, she said. We take no pleasure in this war. We take no pride. In the lives lost on both sides, we wanted only to be treated with the dignity that all thinking beings deserve. She looked at Muvin directly. Counselor, you asked me once what humanity has to offer the galaxy. I will tell you now. We offer the example of a species that refuses to accept tyranny. We offer the knowledge that even the strongest powers can be challenged. We offer the hope that no one, no matter how small, has to live in fear. Her voice hardened. And we offer a warning. Strike us, and we strike back. Threaten our people, and we will defend them to the last breath. We are not your enemies unless you choose to make us enemies. But if you choose that path, we will walk it to the end. She sat down. The chamber was silent. Ambassador Choi stood up to deliver the final statement. Humanity and the Velith Dominion hereby agree to peace. Our borders will be respected. Our peoples will trade freely, and any disputes between us will be resolved through dialogue, not violence. He paused. Let this be a new beginning. Not just for our 2 species, but for this entire galaxy. Let every being know that they have value. Let every species know that they have rights. Let no one forget that dignity is not given by the powerful. It is claimed by those willing to fight for it. The treaty was signed. The war was over. 10 years later, the Galactic Council looked very different. Humanity held a permanent seat equal to the Velith in every way. The Tarathi Collective had gained independence and joined as full members. The Meridian Syndicate had opened its borders to free trade, and across the galaxy, species that had once accepted their place in the hierarchy now spoke openly about their rights. The phrase spread from world to world, translated into 1,000 languages, but always meaning the same thing. It had started on Earth in the early days of the war, spoken by soldiers who knew they might not survive humanity. Fuck yeah, General Park Yuna retired to a small house on New Busan. She grew vegetables in her garden and read books she had never had time for during her military career. Sometimes reporters came to interview her about the war. She always gave them the same answer when they asked if she regretted hitting Counselor Move On. I regret that it was necessary, she would say, looking out at the mountains in the distance. I do not regret doing what was necessary. Ambassador Choi Dae-ho became the first human Secretary General of the reformed Galactic Council. Admiral Baek Juan commanded the new Combined Defense Fleet, which included ships from 30 species who had once lived in fear. President Han Murray served 2 more terms before retiring. In her final address, she spoke words that would be remembered for generations. We did not seek this war, she said. We did not want to prove ourselves through violence. But when we were given no choice, we showed the galaxy who we are. We are a species that does not kneel. We are a species that does not surrender. We are a species that believes every being, everywhere, deserves to stand tall. She smiled, and in her old eyes there was something young and fierce. We are humanity, and we are just getting started. Somewhere in the archives of Meridian Prime, the footage of that single punch remained. A human woman, small and surrounded by enemies, refusing to accept her place. A crystalline skull, shattering under a human fist. A galaxy holding its breath. It was not a pleasant memory. It was not a proud moment, but it was a reminder. A reminder that respect cannot be demanded. It must be earned or taken, and humanity had taken it forever.